Hello, welcome back to the Team JDG channel. Today I've got a deck list for you that I was able to get first place with on the Friday Giant card, third place on the Saturday Giant card, and top 4 in the Sunday main event. And that's Beatdown. And I have to give a shout out to Nightblader for coming up with the original concept for this deck, and then a shout out for the whole team for testing this and coming up with some of the ideas that fine-tuned it a bit. But the core of the deck, you've got 3 Cyber Dragon, and 3 Gaia, and a Yugioh. So Cyber Dragon is a special summon, so that's great for setting up your Beatdown skill. Gaia is just the biggest level 5 or higher normal summon you can play, and Yugioh is a trap negator that is also level 5 or higher. So these are all the enablers of your skill. And then you need a couple of tech monsters because this isn't enough monsters in the deck. I wish you could play all level 5 or higher, but you do need to run more monsters, or you just won't see enough. So the ones that I went with were 2 Banisher. This card's amazing. This card against Crystal Beasts, they can't activate their traps because they send to graveyard as cost, and this doesn't allow that. It's great against Blaze Accelerator, and then it's also good against certain things like Giant Rat, Newdoria, Dragoon. The list is pretty long, but the main things why this is good is what it does to Crystal Beasts and Blaze Accelerator. Then I also ran 2 Drillroid. This is going to let you get over huge things in defense like a Dragoon or just a Giant Rat or Newdoria. It also counters those. Or defense mode Gaia, it attacks over that. And then it combos with our next card, which is also our limited 3 card, which is Book of Moon. So Drillroid Book of Moon, you can attack over anything. And how you use that is you declare attack, and if they don't use something like Widespread or Wall, you could go to Battle Step and Book of Moon, their monster. And now they can't activate Widespread or Wall of Disruption anymore, and the Drillroid will just destroy their monster. And for the traps, I went with 2 Widespread Ruin, 2 Wall of Disruption. It's nice to have a mix because they're better than each other in different situations. And then for the last 2, I went with 2 Dust Tornado. Now some people on the team said run no back row disruption in the main. Some said Night Beams instead. I went with Dust because of its flexibility. So yeah, you can hit a face down, Book of Moon, Widespread, Wall of D, Floodgate, sure. But what this does over Night Beam is it hits the Blaze Accelerator, it hits a Legendary Ocean, it hits the Crystal Conclave or Nightmare Wheel that is face up. Just a lot more flexible, so that's why I went with that. For the sideboard, we've got the 3rd Banisher, which got sided in quite a bit. Like against all the matchups I already said, the TP, the Crystal Beast, that's really what you put in the 3rd one for, or the Rat Box. And then we have a 3rd Drillroid, 3 copies of 7 Tools of the Bandit. 3 was a bit much, I have to admit, but this card's very good. So you're not going to trigger a Waking with it or something like you might with Dust Tornado or Night Beam. However, when you go Cyber Dragon plus Gaia, we'll say, it could be any combination of monsters, but we'll say it's those, and you declare attack into Wall of Disruption, you don't have to worry, you can just 7 Tools it, and now they can't activate more battle traps. So that attack's going through. So instead of the 7 Tools being like a 1-for-1 trade with the wall, it actually kind of plays out to be like a +2 because your 2 creatures are attacking over their 2 creatures because they were relying on their trap to actually resolve. And then the last one is Waking the Dragon, just sided in against like decks with Breaker, Night Beam, Cyclone, stuff like that, and as well as some of the more rogue decks. It's also good against like a legendary ocean, the Leviathan Dragon will trigger this, and a lot of times they won't be able to get over the fusion you bring out. So they'll pop your board and you'll just say something like, oh, defense mode Dragoon. They won't have an out for that. Unless they have another legendary ocean, but I don't think that's super likely. For the extra deck, we've got Thousand Eyes Restrict, Destiny and Dragoon, Arcana Knight Joker, Ryu Senshi, and then the main two, I believe the only two I summoned all weekend. Ojama King, it's just game if they pop your back row, Waking when they have no monsters out. You just bring this out. You usually win right on the spot. And then what I mostly made was actually Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. It's just the biggest attacker. I prefer it over Cyber End Dragon because I don't think the piercing is that relevant in actual gameplay. So this is just bigger. And that's why I played it. So that was the list for Friday. For Saturday, I played the same main board, but I tweaked the side a little bit. So, like I said, the third 7 tools was a bit much, so I took that out. I also found the third Drillroid was pretty unnecessary. So I put in 2 Mind Crush. And what this card is for is Golden Ladybug mainly. There's not really any other good way to deal with Golden Ladybug, but this will do it. And then also, one of the bad matchups, you could argue is a counter deck to this, is the level 7 deck. And it does do a little bit in that matchup. So if you go first and you set Mind Crush and they reveal a Kazujin or whatever, you can Mind Crush that and hope they don't have another one. And sometimes they don't, and that's just enough, and you can OTK them right there. Because you'll have out like 2 monsters, and they'll have out maybe 0 or just 1 in defense mode. So it's enough of a tempo swing to just get in there. For day 3, I did change the main because on day 2, I played against PDS, and he had a more interesting tech than Drillroid. A more effective tech in practice, I think. So I cut the Drillroids for his idea, which was Pitch Black Warwolf. This card is kind of crazy in the mirror match. They can't activate Wall. They can't activate Widespread. So they have a couple monsters up, and you put a couple monsters up. You go Beatdown, and they're just losing their 2 monsters usually. They need like exactly Book of Moon to put the Warwolf face down, and generally in that scenario, you just pass. Like you don't continue the battle phase. So you sort of -1 them. But if they don't have the Book of Moon, you're just outing their board. So that's kind of nuts. I really like that idea. That was the first person I saw play it. I don't know if other people played it before him, but that was the first place I saw it. So that was very cool. And then I still wanted Drillroids, so I decided to take out the Mind Crushes and just have Drillroids instead. And that would kind of be my plan for 7s, is Book of Moon Drillroid. It's not clean. I have to admit, it's not a very clean way to beat that deck, but it'll get the job done. And then you still have Drillroids for like Rat Box or something like that. So, moving forward with the deck, what I actually think the main is about as good as it's going to get. The way I have it, I like this main still. The sideboard I would change even more. Drillroid, throughout the weekend, I realized, is a little underwhelming. It does do what the card text says it does, but those situations don't come up as often as you would think. So I cut those, or I would be cutting those. And then 7 tools is good, but I think the fact that you have Dusts, Jinzo, and Pitch Blacks mean you probably don't need this anymore. So I would cut those. And what I would play is Offerings to the Doomed. Offerings to the Doomed is an out to Pitch Black, and an out to Yugioh, and an out to the Sevens deck. So again, the Sevens deck, if they go make a Kazi Jin, go to you, that's fine. You go Cyber Dragon, normal summon any monster, use skill, so now you have over 4,000 damage on board, and then you just Offerings their monster and the game's over. And then it also works if you're going first, you can set it and use it as a protective spell, but a protective card. So I like it going first or second against the Sevens deck. And then you'd probably side it in against the Mirror as well because of the Yugioh and the Warwolf. You want more outs than just Book of Moon. And then I think I would keep the Mind Crushes in, or put them back in, because Ladybug is wild. And then also, this is just another card to put in against Sevens. You don't want to rely on only having Offerings. It's nice to have more than one card against them. So that is my take on Beatdown. And I think the Banishers and the Pitch Blacks both kind of take this deck to the next level. So it's kind of funny because they're not level 5s or higher, but they give your deck depth and kind of floodgating, and I think that's what made them good against the meta. Going forward, if Sevens gets more popular, you just have sideboard plans for that in like Offerings and Mind Crush. But other than that, I think the deck is really solid against the whole meta. I don't think there's much that like hard counters this. The tough matchups are going to be the Mirror. This is going to be pretty dead in the Mirror, so you side those out. But the tough matchups are going to be the Mirror, and like Twisted Personality is also a pretty even matchup, I feel, which I consider hard because most of the matchups are easy. So you put in like the third Banisher and the Mind Crushes, and maybe even the Waking. I did side the Waking against them sometimes, because if it gets hit by Breaker, it's not as impactful as you'd want it to be. Like against some decks, when they hit Waking, you just win. But they have Blaze Accelerator, they have Wildfire, so they have ways to out, like no matter what you make. But they don't always have it on the spot. So if they hit this with a Breaker and you summon something impactful, that could just be it right there. You can also pick Yugioh. But like I said, that didn't come up exactly. I always brought out one of these two. But yeah, I hope my takes on this help you with understanding how the deck works. And we will be back with more deck lists very soon. Thank you for watching.